Numbers of coronavirus cases continue to grow in New York City. Mayor Bill de Blasio and his administration really looking to contain the effects of the virus. The mayor making pleas to everybody from the most at risk for the virus to subway riders to companies. And right here to talk about these efforts is the mayor himself. So good morning to you. Thank you for coming in during such an important time for New York City. So first and foremost, the numbers keep changing. We were reporting this morning 36 cases. As of this morning, have there been new positive cases?
Yes, there's a lot of testing. There's a lot more testing going on. So as of this morning, it is 46 positive cases in New York City. And we should recognize the more and more testing we do, we're going to find more cases. But thank God we're getting to the truth, because every time we find a case, we can take the appropriate action to protect that individual and everybody else. And really important to say, what we keep seeing overwhelmingly, the great danger here is to folks over 50 years old with pre-existing conditions, 5 areas. It's cancer, it's diabetes, lung disease, heart disease, and compromised immune system. That's where we really, really need to focus, and we need to protect those folks. And we're asking folks who have those realities to change their habits, change their lives to protect themselves as well.
So we have 10 new cases this morning, like you said, 46 cases now. We have seen an influx in one specific case in Westchester County. Are you seeing any specific borough that has a high number of these 46 cases, or is it really widespread among the 5?
It's widespread, but in a way that's important to recognize. You're talking about that cluster in Westchester County. We are very worried when we see those clusters. That's the only one we know of at this point. And on one level, that is good news. So we have community spread. Let's be very clear. This is not any longer essentially because of travel. We may still see some travel-related cases, but overwhelmingly this is about community spread. It's out there, but the clusters really have a big multiplier effect. The only one we've seen so far is Westchester.
And when we're looking at New Rochelle with this containment zone in Westchester, I think people hear that term containment zone, they hear the National Guard is coming in. Their natural reaction is to have a fear and for their anxiety levels to go up. But I do want to arm people with the information and the facts. So for New York City, would you consider a containment zone, and is the city prepared for that?
We're nowhere near that at this point. There's no specific case where we would know a specific situation where we do that right now. We are preparing any number of scenarios for all sorts of tough situations. That's the whole concept of the emergency planning we're doing. But look, I think the bottom line here is trying to help people understand each stage of this thing. Right now, 46 cases, that's important for sure, but it's still a city of 8.6 million people. The fact is, New Yorkers are really listening, and the fear and the anxiety is normal. Anyone out there who's feeling fear or anxiety, it's normal. But we have a chance, every single one of us, to have an impact on this crisis. You look at other countries, one of the biggest problems was a lack of transparency, so people didn't even know what they were dealing with. Well, New Yorkers understand what's going on. Those simple precautions, everything from the washing the hands regularly to hand sanitizer, covering your mouth when you cough and sneeze, but also these things we've asked of employers. If you can allow more of your employees to telecommute, it helps. If you can stagger your work hours so that everyone's not on the same subway car at the same time. For people in their own lives to create more of that change if they can. If you can walk to work, if you can take a bike, if you can change your schedule away from rush hour. I cannot tell you how much this changes things. This is much more a reality, a grassroots, if you will. Reality, because I think people are used to, well, what's the government going to do? And the government's taking very aggressive actions. We are certainly. But in the end, it's everyday people that actually will win this battle by making these changes.
And it seems like people are heeding the warnings.
They are.
There are some pictures that went viral of the subway stations being empty at times yesterday, but there's also a fear now that some local businesses will shut down because of people not going to those businesses, avoiding large areas. What are you doing for the small businesses around New York?
Well, there's 2 things. One is I really want to encourage people to keep patronizing those businesses. So by taking those simple health precautions and recognizing from what we understand, and the information is always changing, right? This is a new disease. We're taking in new information every day, as is everyone around the world. But from what we understand, it takes some specific impact to transmit this disease. You have to be pretty close to someone who has it, and they have to project it. It has to get into your mouth, your nose, your eyes. It does not hang in the air like some other diseases. The reason I say this is, and I'm trying to live this in my own life and to show people, I was out in Union Square Park a couple days ago handing out flyers. I've been to various restaurants. I'm going to be out there again today. You should go about your life. We do not want to see our small businesses collapse. We do not want to see all the things that keep people's livelihood going collapse. So people can go about their lives, take those smart precautions, and you can be safe. but keep going about your lives because we need everything else to work in this city.
It's tough to see that when you see the schools closing, universities and colleges that are closing, right?
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. They have a different reality. And many of them are only partially. They're doing either short-term shutdowns or just shutting down the classes but keeping everything else going, the dorms, the activities, because they can do distance learning pretty easily. We see it, University of Phoenix and everything else.
Right.
So I think they are doing an abundance of caution action because it's easy for them. But in fact, I was just listening to your traffic report and everything else. There's lots and lots of people going about their lives. And that's good and that's healthy.
And for New York City public schools, if there is a case in a school, what happens to that individual school? And would it become more of a system-wide shutdown? And are they prepared for e-learning?
I'm a parent. I was a New York City public school parent. My kids, every minute of their education was New York City public schools. So I'm speaking as someone who would apply the same exact rule to my own kids. If we have a case, we shut the school for a day. This is what we agreed to, the city and the state have agreed to. We shut the school for a day, full cleaning of the school, identify the specific close contacts that student or that teacher may have had, deal with those folks. That may mean those folks need some isolation or quarantine. But then you reopen the school. The one thing I say to parents is if your child has one of those pre-existing conditions, we want you to take extra care. It's the parent's choice, obviously, but be fully aware of the specific dangers that might exist. That's a very small minority of our kids, but I want to be very careful with those kids. But for everybody else, if a school has been cleaned, if we have isolated those who specifically had close contact, then we need to continue with the work of our schools.
And when you look at certain events, big events in New York City, the New York Auto Show has been postponed, the New York City Half Marathon canceled. Looking ahead to next week, there's the St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day parades in Dublin, in Boston, in Denver have been canceled. What is the status of New York City's?
We're talking it through with the parade committee. We have to really think about this one because it's obviously a beloved event and an important event. It's also an outdoor event, and outdoors in many ways is a better dynamic because, again, that close contact situation, less of a problem outdoors than indoors.
But the marathon is also outdoors.
Yeah, the marathon made their own decision. I think part of it was they were expecting a lot of people to travel from overseas and travel from around the country, and people were not doing that. And I respect them for that. We had a good conversation as well with the head of the marathon. But the parade is kind of a mixed bag in terms of making this decision because, again, an outdoor environment where there's a breeze and you're not talking about something that hangs in the air, it's not a slam dunk to say this is something that should be instantly canceled. On the other hand, there are real concerns. We're going to talk it through with the parade committee. Let's see where that goes in the next day or two. But each one of these is going to be case by case.
Is it irresponsible not to cancel it because you have to get on the subway to get to that event? And then when you are there watching, I've been to St. Patrick's Day Parade, I've covered it, you are tightly packed in. You are close contact with people, even though you're outside.
Right. The subway piece is a real consideration, for sure. The part of the parade that leads to indoor gatherings, I am very concerned about. That's for sure. And again, we're trying to, this is a very special event, so we want to not take it lightly. Have the conversation with the parade committee. We still have time to make that decision or for them to make that decision. Look, I've said very clearly, any organization that makes a decision to cancel, I respect that decision. Everyone has to do their own thing. But I'm also very clear from the point of view of the city. City government is functioning, our schools are functioning, our police, our firefighters, everyone's out there. We're not changing that. But each private organization has a right to make their own choice.
And last question on coronavirus here. You came out yesterday to talk about the cruise ships, and anybody going on to a cruise that has a fever or getting off will be put in quarantine. Does the same apply for the airports? And as a parent, I think people look to you for guidance here. A lot of people want to take spring breaks and go on vacations with their family. Should they be traveling?
Look, I think the question really is right now, can you do it as safely as possible? So, for example, if you're traveling, a lot of people travel to Florida in their own car, right? That's a different environment than being in, if you're in the airport, if you're in an airplane, that's a different reality than if you're in your own car. So I think it all depends on the specifics. As a parent, I would say proceed with real caution. We still want people to go about their lives. But, for example, if anyone in the family has one of those pre-existing conditions, I wouldn't travel.
And okay, got it. And the communication with the governor. You came out the very first day, had a press conference joint with the governor. Since then, you both have been coming out with respective numbers for New York State versus New York City. What is the communication with the governor? Is it daily, and other governors across Connecticut and New Jersey as well?
Well, not so much, honestly, with Connecticut and New Jersey. We're all interconnected. We've had cases that cross different states, but the real issue is between the state and the city. Constant communication, literally, hourly. Our health commissioners are talking. Our teams are talking all the time. And there's been a high level of coordination. I mentioned the schools issue. We all really communicated on that one. We had a common vision of how to approach it. I think the state's been doing a great job, and we feel very much that we are aligned in our strategies.
Last night there were big events nationally happening, a mini Super Tuesday, if you will. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden canceling their rallies because of coronavirus fears, which brings us to the topic of national politics. Your take right now on Joe Biden surging ahead. I know you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. He had a big night last night once again.
He did. And look, we're still waiting for some of the results, and we're still ironically waiting for the full impact of the California primary to this hour. We still don't know how all those delegates are going to shake out. It was a tough night. I mean, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. I really believe in Bernie. I think he would change this country for the better. But he had a tough night. That said, you look at the pure numbers, you still have most of the delegates to be determined.
So he shouldn't drop out.
Look, he has to make that decision. But I want to be clear. This race has changed so many times in just the last month. I mean, a month ago, think about even a month ago, you might have said Pete Buttigieg would be the nominee. So literally, this thing has changed and changed and changed again. Bernie has to make a very personal decision. We should all respect whatever that is. But there's a debate coming up on Sunday. And a one-on-one debate is an entirely different reality. So I would just say for everyone, I understand why folks very much are looking forward to the day when the party is unified. I know it will happen, by the way. I've spent a lot of time with Bernie supporters. I don't buy them a stereotype out there. The vast, vast majority of Bernie Sanders supporters, if he does not happen to win, they will be supporting the Democratic nominee.
And will you support Joe Biden?
I've said from the beginning, whoever is the Democratic nominee, I respect Joe Biden. I disagree with him on some things. If he prevails, I'll give it all I got to help him.
And on the local level, we had your wife, First Lady Charlene McRae, here in our studio a couple weeks ago. She had talked about, very honestly, saying she is mulling an idea of running for Brooklyn Borough president. Your thoughts behind that? And was there a meeting between you and Eric Adams that had said...
This one's humorous.
Let me just finish the question here. That you had met with him, that you would endorse him for mayor if he endorsed her for Brooklyn Borough president.
I love this reporting because there's not even a grain of truth in it. I haven't sat in a room with Eric Adams in months. I respect him a lot, but no meeting, no deal.
Why?
Why? Because there's a lot going on. But and I have a great relationship with him. It's unbelievable. You know, the media outlet in question asked us, we said there was no meeting, there's no deal, there's no agreement, there's literally no truth in that story whatsoever, and they ran it anyway. Which I don't understand that. But no, look, Charlene's going to make her own decision over the next few months. I think she'd be fantastic. I think I'm probably a little biased, but I think she'd be fantastic. But, you know, this came from an important point. She said last year, when so many women were running for office, she said, look, I'm encouraging women to run for office. You know, I can't be a hypocrite and say I wouldn't consider it myself. But that doesn't mean she's made a decision. She'll make it soon.
And lastly, there's a lot to get into with you. I know we got to go.
Sure.
I don't know when we'll see you again here on this specific set, so I have to ask, you have a long time left of being mayor, but what is next for you? Are you looking ahead to any bigger office, possibly a cabinet position for anybody?
No. Look, first of all, my mind is right now, right here dealing with coronavirus. And our health commissioner, Dr. Barbeau, made an important point. She was asked what's her estimate. She said she thinks September is when things start to get more normal again. That could change, up or down. So, no, 110% every hour we're focused on dealing with this. And then, by the way, all the rest of the government has to function. All the other issues in New York City have to be addressed. No, I literally do not have a plan for what's next, but there's plenty of time. I mean, 22 months is a long time.
Right. Hey, I appreciate you coming in and making yourself
Thank you.
available.
Let's show people. Yes, that's easy, isn't it?
This is very easy. This is what I've been doing to every guest we have come in now, you know. I appreciate you making yourself available during this very important time for New York. Man.